शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करभावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानामेकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. लोकवीर्यं महापूज्यं सर्वरक्षाकरं विभुं पार्वती हृदयानन्दं शास्तारं प्रणमाम्यहं। स्वामिये शरणमय्यप्पा। वागर्ताविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्तप्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्रीपार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं कूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरणभ्यर्थितानपि अर्थान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुवमभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशीविभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി ഏതീനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുമ്പിടേണ്ടാത്തോരു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കുന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. Sorry, last time we couldn't have the class. So I think today we're doing a review of 78 and then we'll continue with 82. So Martin, நீங்க 78 பண்ண முடியுமா இன்னைக்கு?
Yeah.
Okay.
Om Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namah. Dasakam 78. Tridasavardhakavartita kaushalam Tridashadatta samasta vibhutimat Jalati madhyakatam tvam abhushayo नवपुरं वपुरिन्तरोचिष तदुषिरेव तभूभृतिरेवतीं हलभृते तनयां विधिशासनात् महितमुत्सवकोशम् अपूपुषः समुदितैर्मुदितैः सह यादवैः अत विदर्भसुतां खलु रुक्मिणीं प्रणयिनीं त्वयि देव सहोदरः स्वम अदित्सत चेदि महीभुजे स्वतमसा तमसाधुम् उपाश्रयन् चिरधृतप्रणया त्वयि बालिका सपति कंक्षितभङ्गसमुकुला तव निवेदयितुं त्वजमादिशत् स्वकदनं कदनङ्गविनिर्मितम्.
I think in the first line, the last line, second line, however you have it, Kangshita Bhanga Samakula.
Kangshita Bhanga, okay, tapasuta, sorry. त्वजसुतोऽपि चरतूर्णम् उपाययौ तव पुरं हि दुरासदम् मुदमवाप च सदा तोण्डे पेच्चु सारी सादरपूजितः स भवतापहृता स्वयं स च भवन्तम् अवोचत कुण्डिने नृपसुता खलु राजति रुक्मिणी त्वयि समुत्सुकया निदधीरतरहितया हितया प्रहितोऽस्म्यहं तव हृतास्मि पुरैव गुणैरहं हरति मां किल चेद्रिनृपोदुना अयि कृपालय पालय मामिति प्रजगते जगते पठेतया अशरणां यदि मां त्वमुपेक्षसे सपति जीवितम् एव जहाम्यहम् इति गिरा सुतनोरतनोदृशं सुहृतं हृदयं तव कातरम्.
Last line, Suhridayam, Hridayam, 2 times that Hridayam word comes.
हृदयं तव कातरम् अकथयस्त्वम तैन्यमये सखे तदरितिका मम मन्मता वेदना नृपसमक्षम् उपेत्य हारं यहं दयिताम् असिते क्षणाम् प्रमुदितेन च तेन समं तदा रतगतो लघुकुण्डिनीं ये इवान् गुरुमरुत्पुराणायक मे भवान् वितनुतां तनुतां निखिलापदाम्.
Parabrahmane Namaha. Very good. Okay, so we'll continue with 82. I think we finished up to 5. So it starts from 6 today. Let's see. Lata, you can be student first half. Sujata, you can be a student first half. So stanza 6. Yeah. So 6 and 7 I'll say in meaning together. Niruddha Sheshastre Mumuhushi Tavastrena Girishe, comma, Druta Bhuta Bhitaha, put a F, Pramatha Kula Viraha, put a F again, Vira Pramatitaha. Niruddha Sheshastre Mumuhushi Tavastrena Girishe, Druta Bhuta Bhita Pramata Kula Vira Pramatitaha.
निरुद्धा शेषास्त्रे मुमुहुषि तवास्त्रेण गिरिशे धृता भूता भीता प्रमथकुलवीरा प्रमथिताः निरुद्धा शेषास्त्रे मुमुहुषि तवास्त्रेण गिरिशे धृता भूता भीता प्रमथकुलवीरा प्रमथिताः
निरुद्दाशे शास्त्रे मुमुहुषि तवास्त्रेण गिरीशे धृता भूता भीताः प्रमथकुलवीराः प्रमथिताः निरुद्दाशे शास्त्रे मुमुहुषि तवास्त्रेण गिरीशे धृता भूता भीताः प्रमथकुलवीराः प्रमथिताः
Para skandat skandaha, put a sound, skandah kusuma shara baneishcha sachivaha, comma sa kumbhando bhandam navamiva balenashu bibidhe. Paraskandat skandah kusuma sharabaneishcha sachivaha sakumbhando bhandam navamiva balenashu bibidhe.
परास्कन्दत् स्कन्दः कुसुमशरबाणैः च सचिवः सकुम्भाण्डो भाण्डं नवमिव बलेनाशु बिभिदे परास्कन्दत् स्कन्दः कुसुमशरबाणैः च सचिवः सकुम्भाण्डो भाण्डं नवमिव बलेनाशु बिभिदे
परस्कन्दत्स्कन्दत् कुसुमशरबाणैश्च सचिवः सकुम्भाण्डो भाण्डं नवमिव बलेनाशु बिबिदे
Stanza 7.
परास्कन्
Oh, sorry,
sorry
go ahead. Go ahead, my bad.
परास्कन्दत्स्कन्दत् कुसुमशरबाणैश्च सचिवः सकुम्भाण्डो भाण्डं नवमिव बलेनाशु बिबिदे
Stanza 7. Chapanam panchashatya prasabam upagate chinna chapeta bane vyarte yate sameto jwarapati rajanai rajwaritva jwarena jnani stutva tadatva tava charita jusham bijwaram sajwarogat prayontar jnanavanto picha bahutamasa raudra cheshta hi raudraha. Just a recap, right? So we saw last time or 2 weeks back about Pradyumna, Krishna's son. Then we saw about how Pradyumna was born and about how that Mayavati, we went into the story of Kamadeva, Rati, that we saw. Then we saw how Aniruddha came off. And then after Aniruddha came, then we saw how Aniruddha was then, carried away by this lady called Usha, right? Along with one of her friends. They went to this king palace of Bana, who is the great grandson of Prahlada, right? So the Bali Maharaja, who is the grandson of Prahlada, he's the great grandson. So we saw how Aniruddha was there, and then he fell in love with Usha, and then his father Bana found out, and then he decided to capture or essentially imprison Aniruddha. And we also saw how Bana's fortress was guarded by Lord Shiva. That's kind of what we saw last time. So here, now when all these Yadavas now come to help Aniruddha, right? So at this time, there's a battle that is actually happening here. The battle is happening between the Yadavas and the Shiva Bhutaganas first, right? And then all the commanders who are there, they all keep, fighting. And, when it talks about, Shiva, this is going to be a battle that's going to come much later. But initially, Shiva is actually captured by the Mohanastra that Krishna sends out. But the main battle comes when all this is happening. Bana comes with he has 1,000 arms, like we spoke about. So he comes with 500 bows and arrows because he has 1,000 arms. So he's first, the battle that happens, Krishna, Balarama fight, Bana begins to retreat. So at this time, Shiva, something called as a Shiva Jwara, which is like the personification of Lord Shiva in the form of an astra. Like we have Narayana Astra, there is something called as Shiva Jwara. The word Jwara is used because it causes fever to anybody who's on its way. So the Shiva Jwara is a very hot weapon. So when the Shiva Jwara is getting sent, it actually, anywhere it passes through, it burns people because it is hot. And because it burns people, it is like fire which is spreading in all the direction that is coming. So when the Shiva Jwara comes, then on the other side, Krishna now sends something called as a Vishnu Jwara. The Vishnu Jwara is extremely cold. Now, extremely cold can also be feel hot, right? Because when you go really cold, it pricks you like heat does, right? So this extremely cold Vishnu Jwara is coming. There's a battle that happens between Vishnu Jwara and Shiva Jwara. And at one point, the Shiva Jwara is not able to win, and it comes and it falls on Krishna's feet. and says, I apologize, it's my mistake. I know, please forgive me. May nothing happen to me. That's what the prayer that the Shiva Jwara does. So at that time, Krishna, he says, absolutely, right? And Krishna then forgives and says, whoever remembers the story of the battle between Vishnu Jwara and Shiva Jwara will not be affected by the Shiva Jwara, which is extreme heat, right? And the fever, which is caused by extreme heat. So that's the battle that is actually happening between Shiva Jwara and Vishnu Jwara here. That's what is in stanza 7. So Chapanam Panchashatya, Prasabham Upagate Chinna Chapeta Bane, Vyarte Yate Sameto, Jwarapatir Ajan. I'm going to break it into 3 parts. Jwarapatir Ajanair Ajwari Tvajwarena. Okay, those are the 3 words if you want to break it. Chapanham Panchashatya Prasabham Upagate Chinna Chapeta Bane Vyarte Yate Sameto Jwarapatir Ajanair Ajwarit Tvajwarena.
चापानां पञ्चशत्या रसभमुपगते छिन्न चापेऽथ बाणे व्यर्थे याते समेतो ज्वरपतिरजनैर्वज्वरित्वज्वरेण चापानां पञ्चशत्यां रसभमुपगते छिन्न चापेऽथ बाणे व्यर्थे याते समेतो ज्वरपतिरजनैरज्वरित्वज्वरेण.
ராஜேஷ், என்னோட புக்ல ஜுவரபதி ரஷனை இருக்கு. Is it ரஜனை?
Jwarapati Rashanai Rajwari is there, right? The 2 Ras that are there, right? Or I just broke the 2 Ras into ir and a for is. So Jwarapatir Ajanair Ajwari Tvajwarena. Then it will be easy to say. That's all.
Okay.
Or can we say like Jwarapati Rashanai?
Yeah, you can say that, but then the mistake that can possibly happen is you'll end up saying Jwarapati Rajanai Rajwari. So don't say Rajwari then, right?
Okay.
And because it's Ajwari. So that's why I broke it.
Okay,
But you can say
Jwarapati.
continuously together. Yeah.
Rajesh, is Ajanair or Asanair?
Ashanair, sorry. Ashanair Ajwari.
அதுதான். Is it ja
that's
or
right.
sha?
Okay.
அதுதான்.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
The confusion.
Yeah, Ashanair. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. My bad.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. चापानां पञ्चशत्या प्रसभमुपगते छिन्नचापेतबाणे व्यर्थे याते समेतो ज्वरपतिरशनैरज्वरित्वज्वरेण चापानां पञ्चशत्या प्रसभमुपगते छिन्नचापेतबाणे व्यर्थे याते समेतो ज्वरपतिरशनैर् अज्वरित्वज्वरेण
Jnani Stutvata Dattva, Tava Charita Jusham Bijwaram Sa Jwarogath, Prayontar Jnanavantopicha, Bahu Tamasa Raudra Cheshta Hi Raudraha. Jnani Stutvata Dattva Tava Charita Jusham Bijwaram Sa Jwarogath Prayontar Jnanavantopicha Bahutamasa Raudra Cheshta Hi Raudraha.
ज्ञानी स्तुत्वा तदत्वा तव चरितजुषां विज्वरं सज्वरो गातु प्रायोऽन्तर्जानवन्तोऽपि च बहुतमसा रौद्रचेष्टा हि रौद्राः ज्ञानी स्तुत्वा तदत्वा तव चरितजुषां विज्वरं सज्वरो गातु प्रायोऽन्तर्जानवन्तोऽपि च बहुतमसा रौद्रचेष्टा हि रौद्राः.
The last line, Sujata Garu, Prayavanta is Nya. I think you're saying Gya is Nya. Jnana Vantopicha.
Okay.
Okay.
ज्ञानी स्तुत्वा तदत्वा तव चरितजुषां विज्वरं सज्वरोगात् प्रायोऽन्तर्ज्ञानवन्तोऽपि च बहुतमसा रौद्रचेष्टा हि रौद्राः ज्ञानी स्तुत्वा तदत्वा तव चरितजुषां विज्वरं सज्वरोगात् प्रायोऽन्तर्ज्ञानवन्तोऽपि च बहुतमसा रौद्रचेष्टा हि रौद्राः.
Stanza 8. Banham nanayudhogram punarabhipatitam darpadoshat vitanvanne nirluna shesha dosham swapadi bhubudusha shankare nopagitaha tadvacha shishta bahudvitayamubayato nirbhayam tatpriyam tam muktva tadhattamano nijapuramagamaha saniruddha sahoshaha. So as when the Shiva Jwara then goes away, right? So at that time, finally Bhanasura comes. He comes to the final battle. So when he starts throwing things and all that stuff. So eventually with the Sudarshana Chakra, the Lord then cuts off. He has 1,000 arms, if you remember. So he cuts off all his arms with only 4 of them finally left. So when that happens, then finally Shiva himself comes and says, this Bana is a very faithful devotee of mine. I myself have promised that I will actually take care of his city. So please forgive him so nothing actually happens to him. And Krishna also says, I know Bana is a descendant of Prahlada himself, who is the topmost of my devotee. So just like how Bali Maharaja also, I gave him a punishment but did not do anything to him. Similarly, even Bhanasura, nothing is going to happen because he's blessed because of Prahlada's lineage. Right? So he says, my whole idea here is for him to reduce his pride because he had 1,000 arms and he made Shiva himself the guardian of his fortress. He was actually doing a lot of atrocities, is to kind of bring him back to normalcy. That's why his arms were reduced to 4, but nothing is going to happen. And he'll continue to be one of the topmost devotees of Shiva and nothing will happen. So kind of they come to a truce, right? So with then the marriage of Aniruddha and Usha happens, and then they all come back over to Dwaraka. So that kind of Bana episode comes to an end there. Banam Nana Yudhogram, Punarabhipatitam Darpa Doshad Vitanvanne, Nirluna Shesha Dosham, Sapadi Bubudhusha Shankarenopagitaha. That's one word. Banam Nana Yudhogram Punarabhipatitam Darpa Doshad Vitanvanne Nirluna Shesha Dosham Sapadi Bubudusha Shankarenopagitaha.
बाणं नानायुधोग्रं पुनरभिपतितं दर्पदोषाद्वित्वन्वन् निर्लूनाशेषदोषं सपति बुबुधुषा शङ्करेणोपगीतः बाणं नानायुधोग्रं पुनरभिपतितं दर्पदोषाद्वित्वन्वन् निर्लूनाशेषदोषं सपति बुबुधुषा शङ्करेणोपगीतः
बाणं नानायुधोग्रं पुनरभिपतितं दर्पदोषाद्वितन्वन् निर्लूनाशेषदोषं सपदि बुबुधुषा शङ्करेणोपगीतः बाणं नानायुधोग्रं पुनरभिपतितं दर्पदोषाद्वितन्वन् निर्लूनाशेषदोषं सपदि बुबुधुषा शङ्करेणोपगीतः
Tadvacha Shishta Bahu Dvitayamubhayato Nirbhayam Tatpriyam Tam, and then a comma continuously. Muktva Taddatta, so double the and double it. Taddatta Mano Nijapuramagamaha, comma Saniruddhaha, put is Saniruddha Sahoshaha. Tadvacha Shishta Bahudvitayamubhayato Nirbhayam Tatpriyam Tam Muktva Taddattamano Nijapuramagamaha Saniruddha Sahoshaha.
तद्वाचा शिष्टबाहुद्वितयमुभयतो निर्भयं तत्प्रियं तं मुक्त्वा तदत्तमानो निजपुरमगमः सा निरुद्धः सहोषः तद्वाचा शिष्टबाहुद्वितयमुभयतो निर्भयं तत्प्रियं तं मुक्त्वा तदत्तमानो निजपुरमगमः सा निरुद्धः सहोषः
तद्वाचा शिष्टबाहुद्वितयमुभयतो निर्भयं तत्प्रियन्तं मुक्त्वा तद्दत्तमानो निजपुरमगमः सानिरुद्धः सहोषः तद्वाचा शिष्टबाहुद्वितयमुभयतो निर्भयं तत्प्रियन्तं मुक्त्वा तद्दत्तमानो निजपुरमगमः सानिरुद्धः सहोषः
Stanza 9. मुहुस्तावच्छक्रं वरुणमजयो नन्दहरणे यमं बालानीतौ दवदहनपाने निलसखं विधिं वत्सस्तेहे गिरिशमिह बाणस्य समरे विभो विश्वोत्कर्षी तदयमवतारो जयति ते. So Padmatipad is saying that Krishna, that this avataram of yours, of Krishna, is the greatest. He says there's nothing that can be compared to the Krishna avataram. And again, this anyway in the end of 88 also he says that, but here he says, but that is in a different context. In 88 Dashakam end, when he says Krishna avataram is the greatest, he says because so many different type of people got liberated. There was no rule about who can get liberated. It could be anything. Next chapter, we're going to see about Poundraka Vasudeva, completely different character, right? But he also got liberated. Here, what is saying, the reason this is greatest is all gods, demigods, everybody, you won over them and put them in their place. He starts off by saying Indra. So Indra, we saw in the Govardhana episode, Indra was kind of put under control. Then when Varuna, we saw the episode where Nanda Gopa was taking bath in the wee hours of the morning. Varuna took, so Krishna went to the Varuna Loka, got Nanda Gopa back. Varuna, of course, Varuna did not fight, but he recognized the greatness of the Lord. Then he talks about Yama, because when the Guru Sandipani's sons were taken away in the, I think it was the 76th chapter, when Sandipani's children were taken away, you went and rescued them away. So Yama also, you kind of subdued him. Then Brahma, we know, when the Vatsapaharanam, when the calves and the boys were taken away, you got Yama under control. And here he says, here when Bana, who was protected by Shiva, even then you were able to defeat Bana, right? So with that, he says, this avataram of yours is incomparable, because this kind of shows that you are the topmost, right? You are the supreme Lord who can win over all these demigods like Indra, Varuna, and even Brahma himself, right? So Muhus Tavach Chakram Varunamajayo Nandaharane, Yamam Balanitau Dava Dahana Pane Nila Sakam Bidim Vatsa Stheye Girishamiha Banasya Samare, Vibho Vishwotkarshi Tadayam Avataro Jayatite. मुहुस्तावच्छक्रं वरुणमजयो नन्दहरणे यमं बालानीतौ दवदहनपाने निलसखं विधिं वत्सस्थेये गिरिशमिह बाणस्य समरे विभो विश्वोत्कर्षी तदयमवतारो जयति ते.
मुहुस्तावच्चक्रं वरुणमजयो नन्दहरणे यमं बालानीतौ दवदहनपाने निलसखं विधिं वत्सस्ते ये गिरिशमिह बाणस्य समरे विभो विश्वोत्कर्षी तदयमवतारो जयति ते. मुहुस्तावच्चक्रं वरुणमजयो नन्दहरणे यमं बालानीतौ दवदहनपाने निलसखं विधिं वत्सस्ते ये गिरिशमिह बाणस्य समरे विभो विश्वोत्कर्षी तदयमवतारो जयति ते.
मुहुस्तावच्छक्रं वरुणमजयो नन्दहरणे यमं बालानीतौ दवदहनपाने निलसकं विधिं वत्सस्ते ये गिरिशमिह बाणस्य समरे विभो विश्वोत्कर्षी तदयमवतारो जयति ते. मुहुस्तावच्छक्रं वरुणमजयो नन्दहरणे यमं बालानीतौ दवदहनपाने निलसकं विधिं वत्सस्ते ये गिरिशमिह बाणस्य समरे विभो विश्वोत्कर्षी तदयमवतारो जयति ते.
Stanza 10. द्विजरुषा कृकलासवपुर्धरं मृगनृपं त्रिदिवालयमापयन् निजजने द्विजभक्तिमनुत्तमाम् उपदिशन् पवनेश्वर पाहि माम्. So another completely different story, just condensed here. So once when Krishna, they're all back in Dwaraka. So at this time, the Yadava boys, they went out to play. So in their well, they saw a very large lizard. It was like a massive sized lizard, which was there, like a chameleon, some kind of a lizard, which was sitting there at the bottom. So they tried to pull that lizard up, but they were not able to, but it felt like it was stuck there. So they went and told Krishna, and Krishna comes, and Krishna then puts his left hand, and then by the touch of Krishna, like how we saw in the Sudarshana, we saw one snake, Sudarshana, which was trying to swallow Nandagopa. Krishna touched it with its feet, and the Sudarshana got the Gandharva form. Here, similarly, Krishna touched that lizard, and then immediately it became like it got the form of a demigod. So at the time, Krishna then, for the benefit of people around, asked, "Who are you? You know what happened?" So that lizard or the demigod tells a story of how he was a king called Nriga, Nrga, Nriga, and when we hear the story, we'll feel how is being so silly. But anyway, this in the sense like they were so what do you call sincere about what they did, right? So this king Nriga, one day he called a lot of Brahmins and he was giving them cows to everybody. So he gave cows to a lot of Brahmins. One of the Brahmins, after he got the cow, that cow wandered back into this pack of cows, herd of cows, which are yet to be given. So then the king didn't know about it, because like he gave one cow to the Brahmana. The cow number 5 came back and joined back into the herd. Now that cow got given to some other Brahmin and so on. So this original Brahmin comes back and says, "My cow is missing right now. It came and joined your herd. Give me my cow back." The king says, "That cow of yours which came back, it got mixed. It probably went off to some other Brahmin. I can't identify which that exact cow is, but I will give you 100 cows in return." That Brahmin says, "No, I want the cow that you gave me. Because if I don't take that cow, it's as if I'm taking somebody else's cow." So he kind of argues that way. But Nriga says, "I have nothing I can do, because that Brahmin, I don't know who got that cow." Anyway, this goes on. But he says, because of committing this sin, and the Brahmin says, "I don't want your cow anymore." And the Brahmin walks away. So he says, because, and we all say none of this will happen, but because they were all true Brahmins who were doing a lot of these things, because of sin of stealing away a Brahmin's property, this Nriga got cursed, saying, "You've done all these great things in your life, O Nriga, but you did one mistake, which is you stole away a Brahmin's property." He says, "Because of which I had to take this birth as a lizard, but with your touch, but all the great punyam I have done in my past, with that I was able to come in contact with you, because of which he then gets a demigod's body and then he goes off to heaven." So that is the story of this king Nriga which happened. So that one sin of stealing away from a Brahmin was so bad that he actually got punished to take a small birth, right, to kind of pay for that particular thing. So anyway, that is the story of that lizard which was actually there in the well. So with this episode comes, the Dasakam comes to an end. So Dvija Rusha Krikalasa Vapurdharam, Nriga Nripam Tridivalayam Apayan. You can break it that ma if you want. Tridivalayam Apayan. Nija Jane Dvija Bhaktim Anuttamam. So the mu that is there, will break it. Put a im first. Anuttamam, Upadishan Pavaneshwara Pahimam. Dvijaruषा कृकलासवपुर्धरं नृगनृपं त्रिदिवालयमापयन् निजजने द्विजभक्तिमनुत्तमाम् उपदिशन् पवनेश्वर पाहि माम्.
द्विजरुषा कृकला वपुर्धरं नृगनृपं त्रिदिवालयमापयन् निजजने द्विजभक्तिमनुत्तमाम् उपदिशन् पवनेश्वर पाहि माम्. द्विजरुषा कृकला वपुर्धरं नृगनृपं त्रिदिवालयमापयन् निजजने द्विजभक्तिमनुत्तमाम् उपदिशन् पवनेश्वर पाहि माम्.
द्विजरुषा कृकलासवपुर्धरं नृगनृपं त्रिदिवालयमापयन् निजजने द्विजभक्तिमनुत्तमाम् उपदिशन् पवनेश्वर पाहि माम्. द्विजरुषा कृकलासवपुर्धरं नृगनृपं त्रिदिवालयमापयन् निजजने द्विजभक्तिमनुत्तमाम् उपदिशन् पवनेश्वर पाहि माम्.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Okay, we'll go to Dasakam 83. Paundraka Vadavarnanam, Vividha Vadavarnanam. 2 stories there. Okay, stanza 1. रामेत गोकुलगते प्रमथा प्रसक्ते पूतानुपेत यमुनाधमने मदान्धे स्वैरं समारमति सेवकवादमूढो दूतं न्ययुङ्क्त तव पौण्ड्रकवासुदेवः. So two quick things condensed in this one stanza. One is, so one day, Balarama goes to Gokulam. If you remember, Gokulam was where Krishna, Balarama, they all first started, right? And then from Gokulam, they moved to Vrindavan because of all these Putana episodes, Trinavarta episodes, all those things that were happening. And because they went to Vrindavan, because it was on the banks of Yamuna. So some of these people, after Krishna and all moved away after several years, some of those people from Vrindavan went back to Gokulam, right? So Balarama goes to meet them in Gokulam, and then they tell Balarama that this Yamuna that we had in Vrindavan, that Yamuna is no longer is not coming to Gokulam, right? Because Gokulam is little away from the Yamuna. So here it talks about how Balarama with his weapon moves the course of Yamuna to come towards Gokulam, essentially create some tributaries of Yamuna, because he has this halam that he has, right? So with that, essentially, he's kind of creating a canal, right? So that the water can also come to Gokulam. So the people of Gokulam can also get the water of Yamuna. So that's kind of what talks about how he changed the course of Yamuna, right? For the purpose of the Gokulam people. That is one part of this. When Balarama was gone there, at that time, there was a king called Poundraka. So this king Poundraka, he's not from Kashi, but he's from one of the neighboring regions of Kashi. So that Poundraka sends a messenger, right? So because that Poundraka, when he had a set of people around him who used to flatter him a lot. So the Poundraka thought that he was Vasudeva himself, that he was a Lord Narayana himself who was taken birth in this avatar, who's descended to this earth. And all the people around him kept convincing him that he's the original Narayana, not the Krishna who has come, who's sitting in Dwaraka, that he's the original Narayana. So what he does is he sends a messenger to Dwaraka, to Krishna. He's sending the messenger with a message right now. So Rameta Gokula Gate Pramada Prasakte, Putanupeta Yamuna Dhamane Madandhe Swairam Samaramati Sevaka Vada Mudho, Dutam Nyayungta Tava Poundraka Vasudevaha. Rameta Gokulagate Pramadha Prasakte Putanupeta Yamuna Damane Madandhe Swairam Samaramati Sevaka Vada Mudho Dutam Nyayungta Tava Poundraka Vasudevaha.
रामेथ गोकुलगते प्रमदा प्रसक्ते भूतानुपेत यमुना दमने मदान्धे स्वैरं समारमति सेवकवादमूढो दूतं न्ययिं तव पौण्ड्रकवासुदेवः रामेथ गोकुलगते प्रमदा प्रसक्ते भूतानुपेत यमुना दमने मदान्धे स्वैरं समारमति सेवकवादमूढो धूतं न्ययुङ्क्त तव पौण्ड्रकवासुदेवः
रामेत गोकुलगते प्रमदा प्रसक्ते पूतानुपेत यमुना दमने मदान्ते स्वैरं समारमति सेवकवादमूढो दूतं न्ययुङ्क्त तव पौण्ड्रकवासुदेवः रामेत गोकुलगते प्रमदा प्रसक्ते पूतानुपेत यमुना दमने मदान्ते स्वैरं समारमति सेवकवादमूढो दूतं न्ययुङ्क्त तव पौण्ड्रकवासुदेवः.
Answer 2. नारायणोऽहमवतीर्ण इहास्मि भूमौ तत्से किल त्वमपि मामकलक्षणानि उत्सृज्य तानि शरणं व्रजमामि ते त्वां दूतो जगाद सकलैर्हसितः सभायाम्. So the messenger who comes there representing Poundraka, so he then tells to everybody, comes to Krishna's palace, right, the court, and he tells in front of everybody that Poundraka is saying that I am the one and only true Vasudeva who was actually descended from Vaikuntham, and I am the one who's here to take care of all of the subjects of this earth and kind of eliminate all the bad things. So he says, however, you, O Krishna, are acting like you are that original person, and so you are kind of spoiling my name because you are doing a lot of other things which is spoiling my name as well. And you also have my original things, that Shankam, Chakram, Gadam, Padmam, which you are having, which you have in your possession, Sudarshana Chakra, all of these actually belong to me, but you somehow have it with you. So I want you to return everything to the original owner, which is me. That is the message that the Paundraka Vasudeva then sends with this particular messenger. So when they hear that, everybody in the court, they all laugh, saying, you know what, this is a very foolish person, right? How can he say this, claim this? They say that. But however, Krishna is not taking him foolishly, because Krishna knows he's not a fool, right? He somehow truly believes that, right? So you can't kind of discount what he's believing. So Krishna then tells the messenger that, tell Paundraka that I myself will come and give him all the appropriate things in person. I'll come and meet with him, right? So Narayanoham avatirna, if you want to break that, Narayanoham avatirna ihasmi bhumau, comma, datse kila tvamapi mamaka lakshanani utsrujya tani sharanam vraja mamiti tvam, comma, duto jagada sakalair hasitaha, put is hasitas sabhayam. नारायणोऽहमवतीर्ण इहास्मि भूमौ दत्से किल त्वमपि मामकलक्षणानि उत्सृज्य तानि शरणं व्रजमामि ते त्वां दूतो जगाद सकलैर्हसितः सभायाम्.
नारायणोऽहमवतीर्ण इहास्मि भूमौ दत्से किल त्वमपि मामकलक्षणानि उत्सृज्यतानि शरणं व्रजमामिति त्वां दूतो जगाद सकलैर्हसितः सभायाम्. नारायणोऽहमवतीर्ण इहास्मि भूमौ दत्से किल त्वमपि मामकलक्षणानि उत्सृज्यतानि शरणं व्रजमामिति त्वां दूतो जगाद सकलैर्हसितः सभायाम्.
नारायणोऽहम् अवतीर्ण इहास्मि भूमौ दत्से किल त्वमपि मामकलक्षणानि उत्सृज्यतानि शरणं व्रजमामिति त्वां दूतो जगात सकलैर्हसितः सभायाम्. नारायणोऽहम् अवतीर्ण इहास्मि भूमौ दत्से किल त्वमपि मामकलक्षणानि उत्सृज्यतानि शरणं व्रजमामिति त्वां दूतो जगात सकलैर्हसितः सभायाम्.
धूते तयातवति यादव सैनिकैस्त्वं यातो ददर्शित वपुः किल पौण्ड्रकीयम् तापेन वक्षसि कृताङ्कमनल्पमूल्य श्रीकौस्तुभं मकरकुण्डलपीतचेलम्. So now, after this messenger was conveyed that, you go tell Paundraka that Krishna himself will come and meet you and give everything in person. So that person goes off. So Krishna then gets on his chariot, and then, with a bunch of people, they go to the vicinity of Kashi, right? That's where he's going to go meet Paundraka. Because like I said, Paundraka has a friend who's the king of Kashi. So that king of Kashi and Paundraka were all ready to go meet Krishna. So, but however, they thought, maybe what if Krishna doesn't give it, right? So they came with 3 Akshauhinis. We saw how Jarasandha came with 23 Akshauhinis 17 times. Similarly, they came with 3 Akshauhinis of army and chariots, all of these things, both the king of Kashi and Paundraka together. So finally, Krishna and the Paundraka come face to face with each other. And when Krishna looks at this Paundraka, he saw that Paundraka had a shankam. He had a chakram also that was actually made. Then he had a gada he also had. He actually had a saranga, he had a bow, which was just like Krishna's bow. He had a burnt sign in his chest. So he had kind of somehow burnt a sign in his chest representing the Srivatsam mark. And then he wore a jewel which was like the Kaustuba jewel. So it was exactly like how Lord Narayana would be. He didn't have 4 arms, but he kind of had all the paraphernalia around it, right? He kind of had all of those things with him, and he had the mark on his chest like Srivatsam. He had exactly like that. He was having a Mailpili. So he was like decorated with that one with the flowers. He was also wearing a yellow garment. She was exactly like you're looking at a replica of yourself, right? That is what this Paundraka was actually dressed as, because he completely believed it, and he had the same type of earrings that were there. So everything matched exactly the same. So when all of this, it looked like somebody has dressed up, it says, somebody was dressed up like Narayana, but coming and standing there. So that's what Krishna sees in front of him. So, Duteta Yatavati Yadava Sainikais Tvam, comma, Yato Dadarshita Bapuhu, put a ich sound, Bapuh, Kila Paundrakiyam, Tapena Vakshasi Kritankam analpa. You can break it that ma if you want. Kritankam analpa mulya, put a plus. Shri Kaustubham Makara Kundala Pita Chelam. Dute Tayatavati Yadava Sainikaistwam Yato Dadarshitavapuh Kila Poundrakiyam Tapena Vakshasi Kritankam Analpa Mulya Shri Kaustubham Makara Kundala Pita Chelam.
दूते थयातवति यादव सैनिकैस्त्वं यातो ददर्शि तव किल पौण्ड्रकीयं तापेन वक्षसि कृताङ्कमलल्पमूल्य श्रीकौस्तुभं मकरकुण्डलपीतचेलम् दूते थयातवति यादव सैनिकैस्त्वं यातो ददर्शि तव किल पौण्ड्रकीयं तापेन वक्षसि कृताङ्कमनल्पमूल्य श्रीकौस्तुभं मकरकुण्डलपीतचेलम्
दूते तयातवति यादव सैनिकैस्त्वं यातो ददर्शि तव किल पौण्ड्रकीयं तापेन वक्षसि कृतां कमनल्पमूल्य श्रीकौस्तुभं मकरकुण्डलपीतचेलम् दूते तयातवति यादव सैनिकैस्त्वं यातो ददर्शि तव किल पौण्ड्रकीयं तापेन वक्षसि कृतां कमनल्पमूल्य श्रीकौस्तुभं मकरकुण्डलपीतचेलम्.
That's a put. कालायसं निज सुदर्शनमस्य तोस्य कालानलोत्करकिरेण सुदर्शनेन शीर्षं च कर्तितममर्धितचास्य सेनां तन्मित्रकाशिपशिरोऽपि चकर्तकाश्याम्. So when the soldiers then start fighting each other, right, and all that is happening. So at the time, Paundraka then throws his Sudarshana Chakra, which is made of black iron, right? So he kind of throws the Sudarshana Chakra towards Krishna. So at that time, Paundraka then tells Krishna, "I want you to send me yours, right? Send me the chakram that you have." So Krishna then gives him one more warning, saying, "You're trying to falsely imitate, right? This is not the right thing." But he says, "No, I truly believe I am the right Narayana. You have to send it over to me." So when Krishna sends his Sudarshana Chakra, of course, Paundraka is not able to receive it, right? Because he is not the appropriate owner. So that puts an end to Paundraka. However, Paundraka also attains, Sayuj. Anyway, that comes in the next stanza. I'll wait for that. So anyway, so Paundraka then gets killed, right? He's dead right now. So his friend, the Paundraka's friend, who was the king of Kashi, so when he left Kashi, he promised his people that on the gates of Kashi, you will find Krishna's head lying. That's the promise he had actually made. So, however, in this case, Krishna, then because he also comes to battle, but the exact opposite happens that, it says that his body ends up lying on the gates of Kashi. That story is going to continue a little bit. But anyway, that even the king of Kashi also dies and he is also there at the gates of Kashi. And with that, all of them, then eventually they all come back to Dwaraka. So, Kalayasam Nija Sudarshanam Asyatosya. If you want to break it at the ma, Sudarshanam Asyatosya, comma. Kalana Lotkara Kirena Sudarshanena Shirsham Chakarthita Mamardita Chasya Senam, comma. Tanmitra Kashipa Shiropi Chakarta Kashyam. Kalayasam Nija Sudarshanamस्य Tosya Kalanalotkarakireena Sudarshanena Shirsham Chakarthitamamardhitam Chasya Senam Tanmitrakashipashiropi Chakarthakashyam.
कालायसं निजसुदर्शनमस्य तोस्या कालानलोत्करकिरेण सुदर्शनेन शीर्षं च कर्तितममर्थितचास्य सेनां तन्मित्रकाशिपशिरोऽपि चकर्तकाश्याम् कालायसं निजसुदर्शनमस्य तोस्या कालानलोत्करकिरेण सुदर्शनेन शीर्षं च कर्तितममर्थितचास्य सेनां तन्मित्रकाशिपशिरोऽपि चकर्तकाश्याम्
कालायसं निजसुदर्शनमस्य तोस्य कालानलोत्करकिरेण सुदर्शनेन शीशं च कर्तितममर्दितचास्य सेनां तन्मित्रकाशिपशिरोऽपि च कर्तकाश्याम्. कालायसं निजसुदर्शनमस्यतोऽस्य कालानलोत्करकिरेण सुदर्शनेन शीर्षं च कर्तितममर्दितचास्य सेनां तन्मित्रकाशिपशिरोऽपि च कर्तकाश्याम्.
Okay, we'll switch halfway. See who I had today. Ushagar, you can be student, and Ramya, you can be student. Stanza 5. जाल्येन बालकगिरापि किलाहमेव श्रीवासुदेव इति रूढमतिश्चिरं सः सायुज्यमेव भवदैक्यधिया गतो भूत् को नाम कस्य सुकृतं कथमित्यवेयात्. So Bhattacharya says it may be due to pure moodam, pure stupidity, that this Paundraka kept thinking that he was Narayana himself. But it doesn't matter whether it was out of intelligence or out of stupidity. 24 hours of a day, he kept thinking he's Narayana himself. He was dressing up like Narayana, and he kept thinking about that Narayana all the time. He says that is much higher than what any other people think, right? So he says it doesn't matter. That's the greatest of Krishna avataram. It doesn't matter if you love or you hate Krishna, or you want to marry Krishna, or you want to be a slave to Krishna, or you want to attack Krishna. As long as you're thinking about Krishna all the time, you get liberated. That is a simple message about here. And he says that's what this person was doing, because if he has to behave like Narayana all the time, he has to dress up like Narayana all the time, he needs to know all the specifications. He knew exactly how the Kaustubam jewel needs to be. He needs how the Srivatsa mark needs to be. Even the earring he was wearing was the Makara Kundalam he was wearing. So he was behaving like that all the time. So he says with that, he finally got liberated. He got that Sarupyam, which is he attained your form itself, which is what he wanted. Because you always remember that what you think of at the time of your death is what you become in your next birth. So what was he thinking at the time of his death? He was thinking that he was Narayana himself at the time of his death, right? So he then attained that form that he wanted. He says, and Bhattacharya says, Ko nama kasya sukrutam. He says, who knows what good deeds this Paundraka has done in all his previous janmam to have been born now and thinking that he is Narayana, right? That itself is a great blessing that he had. We don't know what the great blessing he had, but he was definitely blessed. Otherwise, it would have not been possible. So, Jalyena Balaka Girapi Kilahameva, Shri Vasudeva iti Rudhamatish Chiram Saha Sayujyameva Bhavadaikya Diya Gato Bhut, Ko Nama Kasya Sukrutam Kathamithya Veyat. जाल्येन बालकगिरापि किलाहमेव श्रीवासुदेव इति रूढमतिश्चिरं सः सायुज्यमेव भवदैक्यधिया गतो भूत् को नाम कस्य सुकृतं कथमित्यवेयात्.
जाल्येन बालकगिरापि किलाहमेव श्रीवासुदेव इति रूढमतिश्चिरं सः सायुज्यमेव भवदैक्य धिया गतो भूत् को नाम कस्य सुकृतं कथमित्यवेयात्. जाल्येन बालकगिरापि किलाहमेव श्रीवासुदेव इति रूढमतिश्चिरं सः सायुज्यमेव भवदैक्यधिया गतो भूत् को नाम कस्य सुकृतं कथमित्यवेयात्.
जाल्येन बालकगिरापि किलाहमेव श्रीवासुदेव इति रूढमतिश्चिरं सः सायुज्यमेव भवदैक्यधिया गतो भूत् को नाम कस्य सुकृतं कथमित्यवेयात्. जाल्येन बालकगिरापि किलाहमेव श्रीवासुदेव इति रूढमतिश्चिरं सः सायुज्यमेव भवदैक्यधिया गतो भूत् को नाम कस्य सुकृतं कथमित्यवेयात्.
That's a 6. काशीश्वरस्य तनयोत सुदक्षिणाख्यः शर्वं प्रपूज्य भवते विहिता विचारः कृत्यानलं कमपि भानरनातिभीतैः bhutaih katanchana vritai samamabhyamunchat. So when this king of, now if you go back to the story of the king of Kashi who was helping Paundraka. So when the morning when the people opened the gates of Kashi, they found the king of Kashi's head lying there. So originally they all thought it was Krishna's head, because that's what that king had promised when he left, that Krishna's head is going to be lying on the gates of Kashi. Then they finally come to realize that it is the king's head itself which is lying. So his son, who's Sudakshina, so his son Sudakshina, he prays to Kashi Vishwanatha. This Kashi Vishwanatha temple is so old that when this happened 5,500 years back, the temple was there, right? Because it says very specifically he was praying to the Shiva of Kashi, right? The Vishwanatha of Kashi, he was actually praying. So he prays to Shiva. He does a like, you know, he brings a lot of people and he does a yajnam there. And then when Shiva is, when he is asking for what boon he wants, he says he needs a kritya. A kritya is like an evil spirit which comes out of a yajna. So that kritya comes, and that kritya, once it comes out, you have to give it a specific task. We saw in the Ambarisha Charitram also, right? When the kritya came and it came attacking Ambarisha, this kritya also comes. So kritya, once you tell it, you point to somebody and say, this is the person I want to get rid of. It will try to get rid of that person. But if it cannot get rid of that person, it will come back to haunt you. So this kritya comes up, and then he then tells this kritya that he wants this kritya to go and attack Krishna, right? Who is the who got rid of his father. So that is what the message he comes, and he's also now supported by some of this Bhutaganas who supported Bana. Some of the leftover people also came in, and they are all now getting ready to attack. So Kashishwarasya Tanayota Sudakshinakyah, comma Sharvam Prapujya Bhavate Bihita Bicharah Krityanalam Kamapi Bana Ranati Bhitaihi. So put a visarga at the end of that line. Bhitaihi, comma. Next line on top of Bhutai, there is a ir that goes away. So Bhutaihi, put a ih sound. Bhutai Katanchana Vritaihi, put a is Vritais. Samam Abhyamunchat. You can break at that ma. Samam Abhyamunchat. काशीश्वरस्य तनयोत सुदक्षिणाख्यः शर्वं प्रपूज्य भवते विहिताभिचारः कृत्यानलं कमपि बाणरणातिभीतैः भूतैः कथञ्चन वृतैः सममभ्यमुञ्चत्.
काशीश्वरस्य तनयोदसुदक्षिणाख्यः शर्वं प्रपूज्य भवते विहिताभिचारः कृत्यानलं कमपि बाणरणातिभीतैः भूतैः कथञ्चन वृतैः सममभ्यमुञ्चत्. काशीश्वरस्य तनयोदसुदक्षिणाख्यः शर्वं प्रपूज्य भवते विहिताभिचारः कृत्यानलं कमपि बाणरणातिभीतैः भूतैः कथञ्चन वृतैः सममभ्यमुञ्चत्.
काशीश्वरस्य तनयोत सुदक्षिणाख्यः शर्वं प्रपूज्य भवते विहिताभिचारः कृत्यानलं कमपि बाणरणातिभीतैः भूतैः कथञ्चन वृतैः
समम अभ्यमुञ्चत्.
समम् अभ्यमुञ्चत्. काशीश्वरस्य तनयोत सुदक्षिणाख्यः शर्वं प्रपूज्य भवते विहिताभिचारः कृत्यानलं कमपि बाणरणातिभीतैः भूतैः कथञ्चन वृतैः समम् अभ्यमुञ्चत्.
Stanza 7. कालप्रमाणचरणामखिलं दहन्तीं कृत्यां विलोक्य चकितैः कथितोऽपि पौरैः द्यूतोत्सवे किमपि नो चलितो विभो त्वं पार्श्वस्तमाशु विससर्जितकालचक्रम्. So this kritya, which is actually coming out of the fire, is like a very, like extremely fearful person. So imagine like a massive sized person, which says that the legs are like the palm trees. So that's the massive size of it which is coming out. And the Kritya has hair and hair on its body, which is like copper, which is like the dark brownish color. He has very fearful eyes, as if it's on fire. So very scary, and the fearful Kritya is now coming out of this fire. And this Kritya now starts running or approaching Dwaraka. So even before he approaches Dwaraka, people can start sensing that something is going wrong because he's burning things along the way. So when Krishna is then sitting and he was actually playing dice, it's saying. So at the time, Dyutotsave, when he was there sitting and playing dice, and then somebody comes and tells us Kritya is coming running towards Dwaraka and he's actually burning everything that is on its way. So you please have to help out. Krishna says, don't worry, I will protect you, right? That's what he says here. So Thala Pramana Charanam Akhilam Dahantim, comma, Krityam Vilokya Chakitaihi, put a ich sound, Chakitaih Katitopi Pauraihi, Dyutotsave Kimapi no Chalito Vibhotvam, comma, Parshvastam Ashu Disasarjita Kala Chakram. Tala Pramana Charanam Akhilam Dahantim Krityam Vilokya Chakitaih Katitopi Pauraihi Dhyutotsave Kimapi no Chalito Vibhotvam Parshvastamashu Visasarjita Kala Chakram. Sure,
Sorry. Tala Pramana Charanamakilam Dahantim Krutyam Vilokya Chekitaih Jatitopi Pauraihi Dutotsave Kimapi no Chalito Vibhotvam Parshvastamashu Visasarjita Kala Chakram. Tala Pramana Charanamakilam Dahantim Krutyam Vilokya Chekitaih Katitopi Pauraihi Dutotsave Kimapi no Chalito Vibhotvam Parshvastamashu Visasarjita Kala Chakram.
Tala Pramana Charanam Makhilam Dahantim Krityam Vilokya Chakitaih Katitopi Pauraihi Dyutotsave Kimapi no Chalito Vibhotvam Parshvastamashu Visasarjita Kala Chakram.
Ramya, the first line, Charanam Akhilam. If you're praying that, put the im, then it becomes Akhilam.
Okay. Tala Pramanam Charanam Akhil Tala Pramana Charana Akhilam Dahantim Krityam Vilokya Chakitaih Katitopi Pauraihi Dyutos Save Kimapi no Chalito Vibhotvam Parshvasta Mashu Visasarjita Kala Chakram.
Stanza 8. Abhyapatathyamita dhamni bhavan mahastre haheti vidhrutavati khalu ghora kritya roshat sudakshina madakshina cheshtitam tam puplosha chakramapi kashi purim adhakshit. So Krishna understood, who this Kritya which is actually coming, and he didn't want to be disturbed by this. So like he said, he sends the Sudarshana Chakra out to fight with that Kritya. So when the Sudarshana Chakra starts approaching Kritya, it is even more fiery, right? More powerful than the Kritya itself. Like we said, the Kritya, when it cannot attack the person who it is being sent to attack, it turns away and goes back towards its creator. So it starts running back towards Kashi now, and the Sudarshana Chakra following it. And this Kritya then finally goes and it goes into the city of Kashi and it burns the entire city of Kashi down, where the Sudakshina and everybody else who were actually there. So I think the Kashi that we're seeing now is actually a rebuilt version of that Kashi which existed, because that entire city was actually burned down. So Abhyapatatyamita, you can't break that word. So Abhyapatatyamita dhamni bhavan mahastre, comma, ha heti vidhrutavati khalu ghora kritya roshat sudakshinam adakshina. You can break at that ma. Sudakshinam adakshina cheshtitam tham. Some books do not have a thumb on top of cheshtitam. You can put it if you don't have it. So cheshtitam tham, comma, puplosha chakramapi kashi purim adhakshit. अभ्यापतत्यमितधाम्नि भवन्महास्त्रे हाहेति विद्रुतवती खलु घोरकृत्या रोषासु दक्षिणमदक्षिणचेष्टितं तं पुप्लोषचक्रमपि काशीपुरीम् अधाक्षीत्.
अभ्यापतत्यमितधाम्नि भवन्महस्त्रे आहेति विद्रुतविद्वती खलु घोरकृत्या रोषासु दक्षिणमदक्षिणचेष्टितं तं पुप्लोषचक्रमपि काशीपुरीमथाक्षीत्. अभ्यापतत्यमितधाम्नि भवन्महस्त्रे आहेति विद्रुतवती खलु घोरकृत्या रोषासु दक्षिणमदक्षिणचेष्टितं तं पुप्लोषचक्रमपि काशीपुरीमदाक्षीत्.
अभ्यापतत् यमित धाम्नि भवन महास्त्रे हाहेति विद्रुतवती खलु घोरकृत्या रोषात् सुदक्षिणम् अदक्षिणचेष्टितं तं पुप्लोषचक्रमपि काशीपुरीम् अदाक्षीत्. अभ्यापत्यमित धाम्नि भवन
I think Ninganga,
महास्त्रे
you're taking the pause after the dhamni, right? So I think you're going out of tune. Abhyapatatyamita dhamni bhavan mahastre.
अभ्यापत्यमित धाम्नि भवन महास्त्रे हाहेति विद्युतवती खलु घोरकृत्या रोषात् सुदक्षिणम् अदक्षिणचेष्टितं तं पुप्लोषचक्रमपि काशीपुरीम् अदाक्षीत्.
And the Kashi is a short E, okay? So
Okay.
Kashi Purim Adhakshit.
काशीपुरीम् अदाक्षीत्.
Answer 9. Sakhal, just change tune. Sakhalu vibido raksho ghate kritopakriti pura tabatu kalaya mrityum praptum tada khalatam gatah naraka sachivo desha klesham sujan nagarantike jhatiti halina yuddhan nadha papata talahatah. So another completely different story. Next two stanzas, two different stories. So one of them, there is this large ape, like a massive sized ape or a monkey called Bibidha, which was there. So it says that it doesn't say specific details. Even in Bhagavatam, it doesn't say. But here it also says that in your previous incarnation as Rama, one of the Vanara who lived there wanted to continue to be involved with you, and eventually he says Ravana was so lucky because Ravana got killed at the hand of Rama, because of which he attained liberation. So this Vanara said, I also want to be like that, right? So that one of the Vanaras, it doesn't say who, is born as Vibhida, which is like a massive sized ape which was there. So this Vibhida was friend with Narakasura. So because when Narakasura's Vadam happened, so this Vibhida wanted to come and take revenge. So because he was massive in size, he comes to the into the Dwaraka, and because he's so big, he starts flooding the city of Dwaraka, right? So because Dwaraka is in the middle of the ocean anyway, so he starts flooding that city of Dwaraka. So at that time, Balarama goes, and then Balarama then takes care of that Vivida, and the Vivida passes. So that is just one quick story which comes here. Sakhalu Vivido Raksho Ghate Kritopakritihi, put a F, Kritopakritif Pura, comma, Tabatu Kalaya Mrityum Praptum Tada Khalatam Gatah. Only two lines. Sakhalu Vivido Raksho Ghate Kritopakritihi Pura Tabatu Kalaya Mrityum Praptum Tada Khalatam Gatah.
Sorry. Sakalu vivido raksho khate kruto prakriti pura तव तु कलया मृत्युं प्राप्तं तदा खलतां गतः स खलु विविधो रक्षोघाते कृतो प्रकृतिः पुरा तव तु कलया मृत्युं प्राप्तं तदा खलतां गतः
स खलु विविधो रक्षोगाते कृतोपकृतिः पुरा तव तु कलया मृत्युं प्राप्तुं तदा खलतां गतः स खलु विविधो रक्षोगाते कृतोपकृतिः पुरा तव तु कलया मृत्युं प्राप्तं तथा खलतां गतः
Naraka Sachivo Desha Klesham Srujan Nagarantike, Jhatiti Halina Yuddhannadha, double na, Yuddhannadha Papata Talahataha. Naraka Sachivo Desha Klesham Srujan Nagarantike, Jhatiti Halina Yuddhannadha Papata Talahataha.
नरकसचिवो देशक्लेशं सृजन्नगरान्तिके जटितहलिना युध्यन्नद्धा पपाततलाहतः नरकसचिवो देशक्लेशं सृजन्नगरान्तिके जटितहलिना युध्यन्नद्धा पपातातलाहतः.
Aushagaru, the fourth line, first word, Jhatiti.
Oh, sorry. Jatiti halina. Okay. Thanks.
नरकसचिवो देशक्लेशं सृजन् नगरान्तिके झटिति हलिना युद्धन्नद्धाः पपाततलाहतः.
And the Naddaha, no visarga there, just Nadda.
Okay. नरकसचिवो देशक्लेशं सृजन् नगरान्तिके झटिति हलिना युद्धन्नद्धा पपाततलाहतः.
Such a ten. Sambham Kauravya-putri Harananiyamitam Santvanarti Kurunam Yatastadbhakya Rosho Dhritakarinagarro Mochayamasa Ramah Te Gatyah Pandavihairiti Yadupratanam Namuchastvam Tadhanim Tam Tvam Durbodalilam Pavanapurapate Tapashantye Nisheve. A completely separate story here. So we saw about Pradyumna and Aniruddha, who were the children, who were the son and grandson of Krishna and Rukmini. To Krishna and Jambavati was actually born a person called as Sambha. So the Sambha, he fell in love with Duryodhana's daughter Lakshmana. Right? Because Krishna is same age as Arjuna, right? Duryodhana is older, so kind of the children are almost the same age, right? Anyway, so he fell in love with Lakshmana, who is the daughter of Duryodhana. And what he does is he ends up going, and the Lakshmana Swayamvara was going on. So he says, my father Krishna has done it, my uncle, Arjuna does it, right? He also goes to the Swayamvaram and he abducts this Lakshmana, who also willingly comes with him. So when that happens, Duryodhana and the Kauravas are now really upset. So they try to fight Shamba. So when they fight Shamba, he is able to fight for some time, but at some point he's not able to. So the Kauravas then hold him hostage. They bring him back to Hastinapura, hold him hostage. So when this happens, then the Yadavas all decide we have to go attack Hastinapura, go attack the Kauravas. But Krishna knows that is going to be of no use because it's Pandavas, right? Things are going to happen later on, which is going to trigger that battle. So Krishna doesn't want to get involved in it. So Balarama goes there. Balarama first goes and he talks in a nice way to Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana and everybody. But they all don't agree with Balarama. They say, no, we are not going to release this Shamba. So just like how he moved that Yamuna river towards Gokulam, Balarama gets so angry, he says, with my halam, I can move the entire Hastinapura into the waters. And he starts, says, if you don't release Shamba right now, I'm going to do this right away. So when he says, then they all come to a truce. And they say, no, don't do all that. And then Duryodhana agrees. And then they marry this, Lakshmana gets married to Shamba, right? So because of which, Duryodhana and Krishna are now like in-laws to each other, right? because Krishna's son has married Duryodhana's daughter, right? And this is going to come later on when Duryodhana and Arjuna go to Krishna, and then Krishna says, "You get one, I get one," and all that stuff. Duryodhana goes back. Shakuni says, like, in one of the World Cup, they says you dropped the World Cup. Shakuni says you lost the battle because you didn't pick Krishna. So at that time, Shakuni points this to Duryodhana. He says, "Who are you? You are Krishna's like Sambandhi, right? You can go back again and ask Krishna." So that's when Duryodhana goes back and says, "Because you are my relative, you are my Sambandhi, I have another thing to ask you, that while you are there, you should not take up any arms. You should not fight in the battlefield." Right? That's the kind of relation he has. Right? Duryodhana, anyway, Duryodhana's daughter and Krishna's son get married here. With this comes to an end. So here Bhattacharya says, your divine Leela, nobody can understand why you decided not to put an end to Kauravas that day itself. You let it go. Because this Pandavas have to do that, right? That's why Krishna did not get involved in this. So Sambham Kauravya Putri Harana Niyamitam, Santvanarthi Kurunam, Yatas Tadvakya Roshod Dhrita Karinagaro, Mochayamasa Ramaha. Sambham Kauravya Putri Harana Niyamitam Santvanarthi Kurunam Yatas Tadvakya Roshod Dhrita Karinagaro Mochayamasa Ramaha.
Sambam Kauravya-putri harananiyamitam Sambam Kauravya-putri harananiyamitam Santvanarthi karunam Santvanarthi kurunam Yatastadvakyarosha karinagaro Mochayamasa Ramaha. Sambam Kauravya-putri harananiyamitam Santvanarthi kurunam Yatastadvakyarosha Mochayamasa Ramaha.
So go to the second line, Roshod Dhrita.
Roshodhrita.
Yeah.
Roshodhrita. Thanks.
Sambam Kauravya-putri Harana Niyamitam Santvanati Kurunam Yatas Tvakya Roshod Dhrita Karinagaro Mochayamasa Ramaha.
I mean, the second line, front line, Tadvakya.
Tadvakya, okay. Sambam Kauravya-putri Harana Niyamitam Santvanarthi Kurunam Yatas Tvadvakya Rosho Dritakarina Garo Mochayamasa Ramaha.
And same with the Tad, I think you said Twad this time. Tadvakya.
Tadvakya, okay.
Te Ghatyaha, put a F, Ghatyah, Pandaveyairiti, Yadu Prithanam, Namuchas Tvam Tadanim, Tam Tvam Durbodha Leelam, Pavana Purapate, Tapa Shantyai Nisheve. Te Ghatyah Pandaveyairiti, Yadu Prithanam, Namuchas Tvam Tadanim, Tam Tvam Durbodha Leelam, Pavana Purapate, Tapa Shantyai Nisheve.
Te Gatya Pandave Yairiti Yaduprutanam Namachastvam Tadanim Tam Tvam Durbodalilam Pavanapurapate Tapashantye Nisheve. Te Gatya Pandave Yairiti Yaduprutanam Namachastvam Tadanim Tam Tvam Durbodhalilam Pavanapurapate Tapashantye Nisheve.
So go to the third line, Namuchas, that word. Namuchastvam.
नामुचस्त्वं तदानीं. Thanks.
ते गात्याः पाण्डवेयैः इति यदुपृतनां नामुचस्त्वं तदानीं तं त्वां दुर्बोधलीलं पवनपुरपते तापशान्त्यै निषेवे.
Rami, and the third line, Panda, if you have Panda Veyaihi iti, it becomes it's a ra is the joining letter there. So Panda Veyairiti.
Okay. ते गात्याः पाण्डवेयैरिति यदुपृतनां नामुचस्त्वं तदानीं तं त्वां दुर्बोधलीलं पवनपुरपते तापशान्त्यै निषेवे.
Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. We'll end here because next class will start with 84. So Shri Krishna Parabrahmane Namaha. Sandhanandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam kaladeshavadebhyam nirmuktam nityamuktam nigamashatasahasrena nirbhasyamanam aspashtam drishtamatre punarurupurusharthatmakam brahmatattvam tattavad bhati sakshat guru pavanapure anta bhagyam janana काहेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rajesh.
We have about
Thank you,
nine more Dasakams left. I think some of them in the 90s are like a little bit long Dasakams. We won't be able to do two, probably go at a 1.5 like we're doing right now. So another 6 weeks. So before end of June, for sure, we'll be able to wrap it up. Okay.
And then will we do one full Parayanam, Rajesh, after the class ends?
That is coming up in August, right? So we'll do the full Parayanam will be the August Parayanam that we'll have.
Okay.
Okay. And if all of you again are welcome for next Saturday. So whoever has not registered, consider, right? And would sign up because I created a separate WhatsApp group for people who are coming. So Ram, ninga varelnaka, just let me know. I'll add you to that group, right?
Yeah, I added myself to the spreadsheet yesterday night. And the sheet
Okay.
first
I'll add you to the
group.
group. I'll add you to the group also because there's some communications going on there. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.